for me and for the team, like what it really means to be customer obsessed. And you see those things and you can't look away. It makes you want to solve the problem and it makes you want to drive accountability and urgency. And yeah, to me, that is the lifeblood.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Jessica Austin, the Chief Digital and Client Experience Officer for TIAA. TIAA stands for Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America College Retirement Equities Fund. This is a financial services organization, a private provider of financial retirement services in the academic, research, medical, cultural, and governmental fields. It is listed on the Fortune 100 and serves over 5 million active and retired employees participating at more than 15,000 institutions, $1 trillion in combined assets under management with holdings in more than 50 countries. Prior to joining TIAA, Jessica served for 22 years in roles of different capacities at Intuit. Her roles include the VP of Customer Success and Retention Strategy, VP and Segment Leader at TurboTax, and much more. Today, we're talking about client experience, customer experience, and what she is doing to engage her customer at TIAA. Please enjoy Jessica Austin. Jessica, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Where are you calling in from today?
I think I may be near you. I am in San Diego, California today.
Okay, yes. And I was just down there. I'm in the LA area. I was just down there at the safari experience with my kids.
That is a really cool spot.
Yeah, so we went to the safari and then we headed over to the pool. Coincidentally, Comic-Con was happening at the same time that we were at the Marriott, but not the exact same time. But yeah, it was very exciting trip. Nice to see you. You were a perfect person for this show because you also were at Intuit for so many years, which drove so much customer experience innovation. Can you just talk about what it was like to be in these customer experience senior roles at a time when we're all still sketching out the category of customer experience?
Yeah, probably something I took for granted at the time, having effectively, if you will, grown up at Intuit and had, I think in retrospect, a lot of opportunity to really learn kind of at the core what customer centricity meant and customer obsession meant in practice and in culture. So I think that I'm very fortunate to have had that sort of immersion, and then certainly myself and others that have gone to other companies. It's an exciting opportunity for us to leverage that in different industries and different settings to bring that forward.
Yeah, Intuit pioneered so many different parts of customer experience from their design principles to how they measured NPS and so much more. I mean, did you have a front seat to all of that? Do you really feel like you got so much experience implementing those things?
Absolutely. Early on in my time at Intuit, I was a product manager, which, as you probably know, front and center is really focusing on the needs of the customer and getting crystal clear on what is the customer insight, so that you can then drive the focus on the customer problem that you're going to set out to solve, and everything stem from that. So I think I lived it sort of in my early days as an individual contributor, if you will, and then all the way up through leading different parts of the organization and different business lines. It was through and through the thing that kept everything connected in the way that Intuit structure went from goal setting to different stakeholder prioritization, et cetera, with just the customer at the center. So I had the chance to really experience that from a lot of vantage points around the organization and sort of my own growth journey as a leader there as well.
Well, let's talk about leadership since you brought it up. I've been really focusing on customer focused leadership as well. Have a book that just came out about it. What does customer centric leadership mean to you?
You know, it may be oversimplified, but I think again for me, it's coming back always to what is the customer benefit? What is the customer problem that we're solving? Who is your customer? Are you clear on
Right.
that? But I think really for me, it's internalizing this concept that if you deliver true benefit for the customer and you focus on solving unmet client needs or customer needs, that it's just a fundamental foundation for being able to have a successful organization and company and ultimately drive growth. And so, really thinking about what are your client health metrics? How are you measuring those? Do you actually understand it correctly from the customer's lens? And then the classic getting kind of into the whole eating your own dog food. So you've got to get close to the customer and you've got to actually experience what they experience yourself as well. So the whole gamut, but like customer. And if your instinct says this is not right for the customer, it should cause pause in the decision that you're making.
Right. And then getting everyone to see what you're talking about and illustrating it in a compelling way, I'm sure is part of what you have to do.
Absolutely.
Well, let's switch gears and talk about what you're up to now at
Yeah.
TIAA. I actually just was texting with my mom because she's a member. She's a professor at Savannah College of Art and Design. Talk about TIAA and how it's been for you in your new role there.
Yeah, so I've been at TIA about 2 years now, and TIA is an amazing company. Many may not know the name, but we have been around as a Fortune 100 for about 100 years now. It was started by Andrew Carnegie, and the mission is really to secure retirement, provide retirement with confidence for all Americans. The roots were started in nonprofit, really to serve those who are serving others when Andrew Carnegie started it, and primarily started off serving as a retirement provider for largely educational institutions, so universities, higher ed, and now we've expanded as well into other nonprofit sectors such as healthcare and other orgs. So largely serving retirement for nonprofit sector.
And so, how was it for you when you started to like really get up to speed on what you needed to do? I mean, was it a big leap from TurboTax to TIAA?
Yeah, so I'll say what drew me in is really if you think about, the biggest back to the customer problem challenge, if you think about the US and the big challenges around retirement and healthcare as kind of the two fundamental big challenges for us, I was really intrigued by helping solve this problem of retirement readiness and, Americans being able to retire securely. So when I thought about, well, yeah, but I haven't been working in financial services all my life, if you will, in a classic sense at these firms like TIAA, what I realized is very similar is fundamentally the challenge and the opportunity is really to simplify the complex in a regulated environment, which is what TIA is, the context of retirement in a regulated environment. But that also was what we were working on at Intuit, just in a different context. But things like taxes, which of course is very complex, and how we simplify the complex. Again, in an environment in that case, it had IRS regulation. So when I saw the connection, really in the fundamentals of how to bring customer practices to that, it kind of hit me. Wait a second, there's actually quite a lot I think that I can bring from Intuit to TIA that's leverageable just in a different context of the sector, if you will.
Absolutely. So, with the focus on humanizing digital experiences and financial services, how do you humanize digital experiences for an older aging population that they're savvy on digital? Changes from person to person. So, how do you approach that?
Yeah, look, I mean, it is definitely a challenge because you're making the point that it's not a one size fits all. So the way that we think about it is really a couple of things. One, how can we best blend sort of digital and human and not create an artificial wall between the two? So what is the potential to unlock the synergy between the two and transitioning between the two in different need states? And that could be different things if you think about different customers on a spectrum of their different education or kind of financial educational levels, their own confidence level, to your point, their own digital savviness. And also, if you overlay really what is the decision that we're trying to help them make and the sort of implication of that decision. I think there's times when there's things that are a bit more, one way door in a major decision that we definitely want to be mindful of making sure we have a human there to help guide that. In our case, that would be things like kind of taking a lifetime a paycheck and what we call an annuity. that is sort of an irrevocable decision. So we think about in that context the role of a human relative to digital in educating. But there's other times where, again, depending on the customer, depending on the context of what the advice and education is, that we can lean more into digital, but ultimately always wanting to put choice in the hands of the customer themselves, who can express, for example, if their confidence is sort of waning or they've got a gap and they need that extra guidance and assistance through assisted. But we're really working on a lot of experiments around how to bridge that, knowing that there isn't one right way for everybody. So again, it's about providing that optionality and trying to be predictive through what we learn in how to lead with different customer segments and different customer contexts.
Okay. You are a perfect person to talk about metrics. I mean, you talked about things being contextual. I think some of the challenges we've had with Net Promoter Score and metrics like that is sometimes they're not foolproof and they can be gamed. What kinds of customer experience metrics are you looking at on the daily?
Yeah. So, to your point, we certainly look at Net Promoter Score for the many reasons many others do, and being able to do some industry benchmarking and things of that nature, and just the longitudinal nature of how it appropriately can be used over time. But for our teams who are building client experiences day in and day out, they need something that's more operational in nature so they can see the
Mhm.
more immediate impact of the things that they're working on in a more micro context. And so we have something, as an example, we call our customer effort score, that we calculate based on the user through a sort of a surveying mechanism real time, giving us a simple 1 to 5 score on how well they were able to achieve their objective. Was that simple and could they get it done, basically? And then we calculate what we call the customer effort score. But it's very, if you will, sort of micro in nature. It's around a given job. So, in other words, if someone is trying to withdraw money, let's say to take a loan out of their retirement account, we'll measure how was that specific interaction for you. We call it a job in terms of our customer journeys and jobs. So how did we score on that job? And then we have a collection of those that we add up. They're omni-channel, so it doesn't matter if you're trying to do it digitally, you're trying to do it over the phone. We look at it through all of that full kind of customer context, and that is an example of one of our primary metrics that we use to measure customer health around, are we making it simple for them to get done what they are trying to get done with us? And it's lovely because we really can, the minute we ship something, within very little time, see how we're moving that score as an example.
Is technology a big piece of that for you, Jessica? Are you constantly changing the technology stack based on shifting behavior and what the employees need?
Yeah, TIA, probably not unlike many other 100-year-old companies, has been embarking on both this client experience journey to sort of dig out of some of our debt, if you will, there, but also in the technology space. And so we have invested quite a lot over the last several years to improve our technology stack. Some of the obvious things, making sure that we're cloud enabled, and we are leveraging the best of sort of third parties worlds that others do, like AWS. Of course, everything we're doing to invest now in AI capability, in our data infrastructure layer and stack. So yes, technology is core. Um, I would tell you that it's not for lack of being able to envision an amazing experience solution for customers. It's sort of, can we build it fast enough, and can we stay out ahead, which very much has reliance on our technology stack and how quickly we're able to build and get things to market.
Well, Jessica, I know that our audience is wondering this, and since you mentioned it, can you drill down and talk about how you're using AI in the infrastructure?
So with AI, we're taking an approach that's all called kind of two pronged, two phased. One is we're embarking on things that we can do internally to improve some of our efficiencies in the way that we work, leveraging AI to automate. So pretty kind of standard approach that many are deploying and seeing success in. But I think the more interesting sort of path ahead is what we're doing and starting to test out with respect to how we leverage AIs and predictive models to really help with the work that's fundamental to providing personalized experiences and guidance and education to our participants with respect to staying on track for retirement. So really, I'd say we're at the early stages of that. Again, back to being a regulated business, back to wanting to make sure that we are completely protecting our customers and using AI responsibly. That is something that we will measure twice, cut once as we walk into that and make sure that everything that we're doing, is leveraging the best of AI, but of course, making sure that we stay away from potential challenges that we know AI has. So I'd say that's an area of exploration, but not yet scaled in market.
Jessica, let's talk about your customer and the subtleties and nuances of your customer. There was an article recently in the Wall Street Journal about the active generation, the baby boomer generation, that many of them have sold their homes in places like California, Chicago. They're moving to less expensive locations. They're enjoying life. Any trends you could share with us about what's been happening with the baby boomer generation in the last few years?
Yeah, the biggest thing I think on our minds, honestly, and we have actually something called the TIAA Institute that does a lot of partnering externally on research with a lot of various think tanks and organizations, universities, but really is around what we call, the longevity challenge, which, our data and studies are just over and over show again and again through the lens of retirement planning, how most are not aware of the increases in longevity, just lifespan, that has happened over the last 30 years, almost doubling. And so most folks, when thinking about their retirement, are not planning just for enough years. And so when you look at sort of um, Americans' knowledge of that and how much they understand what we call longevity risk to their retirement planning, that is something that we see as a trend, is really something that we've got to drive different education around. Otherwise, the best laid plan, just isn't going to come to fruition if you don't have the right understanding of how things have changed from our parents' generation to our generation around how long we're going to live, and of course the next generation, how long they're likely going to live. It really, really changes the model of how we think about what it even means to retire and when you could be ready to retire. And so, as you probably have seen, there's a lot of change happening with you know, people no longer retiring in the classic way of the past, but going on to do something different, have other side jobs, have part-time work. This idea of working, of course, for one company and then retiring with a pension is no longer. So the whole model has really shifted. But that longevity risk is probably the single biggest um, change that we see that people just don't fully internalize yet for themselves when planning.
Let's talk about your contact center training, because I would imagine those conversations that your agents are having with these customers, like, hey, you did not save enough money and you're going to be in a bad spot when you are still living in 15, 20 years. How do you train your agents to create a culture of empathy and listening? And like, what are the subtleties of being an agent in the hot seat when you're having these difficult conversations with clients?
Yeah, and this is beyond, to your point, kind of our agents. We also have a huge group of advisors that are certified advisors that are both on campus. So, for example, they're out at a university meeting face to face with some of the employees on campus, as well as doing webinars in a group, as well as, to your point, taking one to one calls. So, we have a whole range of sort of footprint on how we are delivering that education and advice. But really, we think about it in a few components, which is, are you saving enough? How are you then managing that in terms of the investment and the allocation of your investments? And then are you protected in terms of having lifetime income, which is meaning you will have a retirement paycheck that can cover your basics, for the rest of your life. And so that's the frame that we use. And yeah, it's really difficult when the engagement starts late with somebody who hasn't saved enough. And the thing that we're working on and extends beyond kind of the in person, but also you asked earlier how we humanizing digital is to
Mhm.
think about how can you help support someone in behavior change that isn't so overwhelming that they just
Mhm.
automatically think, forget it, I give up. And that
Mhm.
means subtleties on, how much more you can ask someone to save from a paycheck. If we were to be giving a recommendation that, let's say, a model spit out that says, hey, you need to save 20% more, particularly in a digital context, you can imagine someone's going to say, "That's insane! Like, how could I possibly do that?" So, really, instead, thinking about behavioral design, thinking about how you can help people take more micro steps that are not maybe shaming, that don't invoke that type of an emotion or overwhelming kind of fear, and how we can take those micro steps to get people on the path for better retirement outcomes. And that's really what we're focused on, are those kind of education and micro steps to build that confidence and see the impact over time.
I would imagine building trust is really important because let's say you are giving them ideas for, let's say, new ways to save money or new funds. The customer needs to trust you, not thinking, well, TIAA is just trying to make money and that's why they want me to do A, B, or C. That, oh no, I trust them and they know what's best for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Building trust, I think, in any financial services space is key. So, absolutely, and that's part of why we also, with our advice, as I was just mentioning, partner with third party organizations that provide the advice recommendation, so that we have sort of, if you will, an outside objective point of view. And I think more fundamental than that is, my perspective. And if you can't sort of build trust on small interactions that are more transactional, it's very difficult to build trust on something really meaningful like your retirement recommendations. So I think about it all as like those moments that matter, those getting those brilliant basics right, then getting those moments that matter that have moments of empathy. If someone is going through a hardship and needs to take a withdrawal or a loan on their retirement savings, you better get that moment right and help get them that money quickly for their hardship, or how can they trust you with their retirement? So that's how we think about those brilliant basics, those moments that matter that have disproportionate emotional tie, just like frankly any relationship, and how you think about building trust and designing for trust so that they can trust you with the really big thing, which is their retirement security.
How many times a year, Jessica, do you find yourself on customer calls or like sitting in the hot seat or listening to calls or reading emails from customers? Is that something that you incorporate into your schedule?
Yeah, one of the things that I did right when I got here, I didn't do it. I asked for it, and it was done. Which is, I love to read real time, every day, inbound customer comments. So we have now a live feed that comes through. We just integrated it into a Teams channel. It's specifically a VOC channel. And it's not just for me, it's for the whole team. So on any day, minute, moment, I can go check. And it's just part of my morning routine is to look at what those inbound comments are. So it's literally picking up verbatims, no sort of aggregation. I like to see it direct from the customer, not the synthesis in a research report. Direct from the customer what they're saying about an experience, whether it's coming in through our digital channel, our call centers, it's all put into this channel. And I can see just all this stream. It's like the stock ticker, but it's a bunch
Mhm.
of verbatims. And then we're, of course, taking it a step further and leveraging it to drive action and tag things and make sure we create bugs and incidents if we think it's a defect. But it's, for me and for the team, like what it really means to be customer obsessed. And you see those things and you can't look away. It makes you want to solve the problem, and it makes you want to drive accountability and urgency. And yeah, to me, that is the lifeblood.
Love that. I can imagine what that looks like. I would love to be a fly on the wall, looking at all those verbatims and everything.
I drive my
Well,
team nuts because I start running around and asking them, hey, who's on this? Who's on this? Have you seen this? They're like, but I love it.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it takes to do the job. It's all the details. Let's get to
Yep.
know you a little bit, Jessica. Are you game for rapid fire?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. First, what is the most important part of your morning routine?
Non-original, but getting a cup of coffee.
What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I just love to get outside, living in beautiful Southern California, and generally walk the dogs, do anything outside in the evening.
What show are you currently streaming?
I'm a little behind, but streaming True Crimes, I think it's called. Yeah, something with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. True Detective, that's what I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
You know, I love a lot of Brene Brown's books. So I'd say any of those with personal and kind of leadership blend. But I'm reading right now, I actually just finished a book called The uh, The Obstacle is the Way. And I'm
Mhm.
finding that to be really relevant for a lot of the things, both, again, professionally and personally. So The Obstacle is Away is my latest reco.
What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Boy, perfect happiness for me is having it's sort of like financial freedom for me, which is having choice and flexibility. So my happiness really is just freedom of choice and freedom of flexibility in
Mhm.
life.
Yeah, it's a great answer. What's your favorite type of vacation?
I got to be honest, I love any kind of vacation. So I'll take mountain, city, take the U.S. international. I just love to travel and kind of like to do a mix of things.
If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Hmm. That is a question that comes up a lot, and I deeply think about this. And I have to go back to my grandmother. So my grandmother passed away when I was in my early 20s, and I miss her dearly. So I would love to see her again.
And if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
I choose to believe things happen for a reason. It helps me stay positive, kind of see a lesson in different things, and be flexible with the path that comes. So I look at things that things happen for a reason. Just hang in there and you'll see why.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jessica. It's been really fun getting to know you, and hopefully, you'll come back to the Modern Customer again and we can talk more shop.
I would love to, and thank you so much for having me. It was great to meet you.
Thank you. Everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and more.